Okay, so another verification. And they tell us, hey, use an even odd identity, which is nice of them to tell us. I mean, eventually we want to start recognizing these things on our own. So when I look at this equation that they give me right away, this is a little concern, okay? Because on the right-hand side, I just have cosine squared x. I don't have anything about the opposite of x, okay? So I don't like that. And it's a fairly easy thing to spot. And I know I can use an identity for that. So over here on my idea page, I know that the sine of the opposite of x is equal to the opposite of the sine of x. And so then that's going to help me out a little bit. So I'm going to replace that. So I'm going to write 1 plus sine x. That's the first part. And again, you don't have to draw those arrows. I'm just trying to point out what you're doing here. Okay. And the other one now is going to be 1 minus sine x. Okay. Now, that doesn't get me a cosine squared, does it? No, but at least it looks better. And now you might say, hey, this looks like the difference of squares. Or if you don't like the difference of squares or you don't remember that, you could think FOIL. I could multiply this out. This is like a binomial times a binomial, right? When you do that, you'd get, if you were going to multiply it out, you don't have to do this. You might just recognize it. But 1, and then you'd have negative sine x. Then you'd have the positive sine x. And then you'd have minus sine squared x. Okay? So that's what's happening there, and that's how we write it. Sine x times sine x is sine squared x. Okay, well then we notice that these cancel out, and so we just have 1 minus sine squared x. Now, we need another idea here. We know that the sine squared theta plus cosine squared theta is equal to 1. But remember we talked about those alternate forms, and so I can subtract sine squared theta from both sides. This is like my idea sheet over here. And I get cosine squared theta equals 1 minus sine squared theta. Okay? Again, you don't have to show all that work. We know the alternative form because we'd already stated that. Yeah. So I'm just going to write that as cosine squared x. Don't mix up your x and your theta, by the way. And now I've got it. I'm done. Okay, so that one had a couple more steps to it. Again, it's how you're going to show the work. How are you going to communicate it? Okay, so based on correct trigonometric principles. Okay.